What is the worst place on Earth to live? Sudan. Not right now. South Sudan just has the usual poverty and famine and militia attacks. Sudan is entering full-scale civil war. Eritrea. Yep. My vote would be Eritrea or Somalia. Do not ever go there. Humanitarian worker here. I've been to Hargeisa, Somaliland, the autonomous part of Somalia. Surprisingly, I found it bad but much less dangerous than South Sudan. South Sudan is hell on earth. They no longer have electricity since gaining their independence, and it's truly survival of the fittest. Mogadishu. It is the most dangerous city in the world. The US State Department's travel advisory for Somalia is a pretty interesting read. Among other advice, it recommends drafting a will and leaving DNA samples behind with your family in case they are needed. I feel like if the State Department is telling me to leave DNA samples and write a will before traveling someplace, I need to take a real honest look at my travel plans. Maybe just find a nice beach somewhere safe instead. Norilsk. It's so polluted from metal mining that the topsoil is a viable metal ore. It's 300 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, so it's cold and dark for much of the year. The average temperature is -10 C. It's so polluted that the boreal forest downwind from it is dying. That island full of snakes. Brazil has Quimada Island, which is impossible to live in because it is one of the most snake-populated islands and they have snakes that fly. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I have a friend that visited all but 3 countries in the world and he said Haiti has to be the least safe he has felt somewhere. Djibouti is the worst place I'd ever been. People were literally living in houses made of tires. It was 125 degrees and is the only place I've been to where the breeze makes the heat worse. It's like standing in a blow dryer or a car exhaust. Surprised I'm not seeing a lot of Yemen. Yemen is where Eritreans try to swim to get the fuck out of Eritrea. Gaza Strip doesn't seem like a very hospitable place right now. The Darien Gap. 66 miles of dense mountainous jungle that is home to fertile ants, pit vipers, banana spiders, black scorpions, crocodiles, drug traffickers and FARC insurgents, and also unexploded ordnance dating back to the Cold War that is now hidden by jungle overgrowth. It is inhabited by several indigenous tribes who are increasingly having to deal with the drug traffickers and insurgents, and, more recently, migrants trying to enter the US from the south on foot. My mother-in-law's house. Turkmenistan. No freedom, and it's a kind of shithole. Besides war zones. Probably Antarctica, or somewhere like Death Valley. Low life expectancy, I'd think. War zones. Gaza, Sudan, Syria varies by region. Sahel region, parts of Niger, Burkina Faso, highly repressive regimes. North Korea, Eritrea, parts of Ukraine that are under Russian occupation. Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, failed states. Haiti, Somalia, South Sudan, Congo Doctor, Central African Republic, Libya, Syria varies by region. Extreme poverty / inescapable slums all over the world, but I'll note a few of particular significance such as those in or adjacent to Cape Town, Rio, Nairobi, Karachi, Mumbai, Mexico City. The nature of shanty towns is that they tend to be adjacent to cities with lots of economic activity, and so naturally, there are parts of all of those cities that are just fine to live in. Maybe someone will correct me, but I'm not sure Mexico City is quite the level of the other cities on that list. I've spent some time there, and while granted I was not out looking for the worst neighborhoods, we got around the city a fair bit. Worst I saw was on par, maybe a little worse, with stuff I've seen in New York and Philly. I'm sure it gets slummier. I just don't know if it gets Mumbai level of slums. Certainly not one of the worst in the world levels. Camp Shelby. Army base in southern Mississippi close to Biloxi. I went there for combat training and combat lifesaver training before my deployment. Disgustingly hot and humid. Mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds, brown recluse spiders everywhere, fire ants, etc., etc. I have been to Kuwait, Iraq, and Qatar. I'd gladly go back to any of those if it meant avoiding Count Shelby again. Gross. North Korea. While North Korea may have limited rights and access to knowledge, I don't think it's the worst place to live by far. There are a lot of truly terrible places on this planet. Some people already mentioned Gaza Strip, also many places in Africa. Crazy how many people are saying places in the US. How sheltered and ignorant of the world do you have to be to think it is so bad in the US? Kind of a spit in the faces of people who live in such bad conditions to say you have it worse in a first world country. Yet things could be better here, but show a bit of gratitude you have access to your basic necessities, where there are plenty of places in the world who don't have those luxuries. Gaza, Palestine in general. Palestinians in the West Bank who work in Israel and receive Western wages, as well as countless of international donations, live far better than anywhere in Africa, including Egypt. Bakersfield. I remember driving into Bakersfield and getting out of the car, wondering if someone had stepped in shit. My GF at the time, who was from there, said no. That's just how this town smells. Forever known as Poop Town. Gary, Indiana. I had to move from NY to Indiana because of familial obligations. The good old bullshit is alive well all across the state. It applies to everyone, not just the cops. Nothing is convenient. I've always heard that Nyers are rude. We don't hold a candle to these people. This state hates the poor, the disabled women. In just cut funds for autism. Again, in doesn't give a shit about domestic abuse victims. It's my understanding that up until this year, they didn't have a dedicated website for DV stats. In most DV shelters, the victim gets 20 to 60 days before they're kicked out because there's such a need for space. The tragedy is that the state of IN won't give you housing in that amount of time, so you're either homeless or the victim goes back to their abusers. I miss NY every single day I'm here. No, it's not the worst in the world, but it could stop punishing the residents who need help. Edit. Sentence structure. Site Soleil is unimaginably terrible, though I'd rather live in Haiti than a place like South Sudan or Somalia. That specific sector of Port-au-Prince is the worst place anyone could live. IMO. Haiti, Cuba, and Venezuela are the worst places to live in the Americas, but they aren't as bad as North Korea, Afghanistan, or the worst-off African countries. The worst place to live on Earth can change depending on how you look at it, like what makes a place not nice to live. The one place that's really tough is a spot in Antarctica called the McMurdo Dry Valleys. Imagine a place so cold and windy that almost nothing can live there, not even tiny bugs or plants. It's like a desert, but with ice instead of sand. Chernobyl would be one of them. Pripyat exclusion zone to be exact. You can actually take a tour there if you really want. Sea caves. They are dark, underwater, and full of the unknown. If you try to explore one, you will become disoriented and drown, which is probably the worst type of death. Your body will never be found. I think it's Liberia in Africa. I saw a documentary on it once and I believe they said there's no sanitation and everyone craps on the beach. I mean, the beach was completely covered in poop. Huge piles of it. It was just horrible. I wish some kind of humanitarian aid would do something about it. I think it was also like the biggest slum on earth. They probably run a close race with the favelas in Rio de Janeiro though. Gaza, NK, Eritrea, Somalia, Sudan, Madagascar, that room in Mar-a-Lago where Trump heats the women he's kidnapped. Any country that bans freedom of the speech. In the poor states of India or in Africa, where there is unsanitary conditions and lack of normal civilization. One of India's slums, built directly on huge mountains of garbage hundreds of meters high. The air is poisoned, the soul a constant danger, and the people who live there have no hope of seeing anything in their lives other than this immense world of human detritus. The children grow up playing with the garbage, then take over from their parents by rummaging through the immense refuse heaps in the hope of surviving another day. My dad traveled the world in the US Navy for 30 years. He told me by far The worst place he ever had to stay was Djibouti, Africa. I did wonder about the Marshall Islands, the middle of nowhere, nothing to do, shockingly high rates of cancer and radioactive sicknesses because of the legacy of us nuclear testing there, for example. Bikini Atoll, the economy, is essentially based upon allowing the US to fire rockets at your territory, and the politics get as far as sucking up whatever the US wants in the end. It's obviously not as dangerous, Somalia, or as oppressive as North Korea or Eritrea, nor as madly violently anarchic as Papua New Guinea, but man, it sounds really grim. According to each of my children at separate times in their lives at home with me, didn't to for continents, lived in Houston. My only takeaway is that Houston may be the most utterly depressing shithole I've been to in any developed country. At least Gary is close to a national park, and Chicago and Camden is close to Philadelphia and the Jersey Shore. But Houston is in its own ugly-ass bubble. For me, anywhere near the equator, Central America, Middle East, Thailand, Australia, I dislike the heat, so I'm biased. I find some of the Balkan states or Eastern European or Russian rural cities more depressing than anywhere in Africa. But yet Somalia is difficult if you're from there, and I have been there. State Department warning, are always overblown. BTW. Afghanistan and Iraq are actually cool. Also visited along with Iran, which was amazing as long as you're not an idiot. Over 7 million people have fled Venezuela. It's a failed state and must be absolutely awful if people are willing to walk thousands of miles to escape it. Jungles of East Congo, outskirts of Goma, in one of those little villages. I think north of Goma is really bad still. The world has abandoned them. They need help. Please look into it. Even if you aren't in a position to help, just get educated on it and bring it up in conversations. I have a friend over there and she say don't forget about us often. It's so sad. 1. The caldera of any active volcano. Life expectancy, less than 1 picosecond. 2. The bottom of the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench. Life expectancy, less than 1/1000th of a second. 3. At the summit of Mount Everest, life expectancy assuming shelter, less than an hour. 4. The South Pole, life expectancy assuming shelter a matter of days, half the year, a matter of weeks the other half. 5. Gary, Indiana. North Korea has got to be up there. Punishment of death by firing squad for watching a South Korean film. Thanks for watching. Share your stories in the comments.